to the Sales Slap podcast, where we hit you with the hard truths, bold strategies, and expert insights you need to master the art of selling. And who's leading the charge? Meet your hosts, Rick Denley, Simon Hares, and Scott Donald. Get ready for real talk, expert advice, and game-changing strategies. Because in sales, you don't just play, you slap. Let's dive in.
And welcome to the Sales Slap podcast, everyone. I'm one of your hosts, Rick Denley, along with Scott Donaldson and Simon Hares. Thanks for joining us this morning from wherever you are in the world, because we're all over the map. I think we're the closest we've been, actually, haven't we, guys?
Simon,
is it. Where are you right now, Simon?
I'm in Vancouver.
Wonderful. And I'm in Toronto. And Scott?
I'm in the worldwide headquarters in Winnipeg.
Wonderful. Now, today we've got an exciting guest for our show. 31 years of customizing and actionable workshops, seminars, courses, training days. I've got a long list for you here, Allan, and there's more to it. Your first book was a bestseller, which gave you the inspiration to start your 7 Secret Sales Academy, which looks really interesting. You're going to share a bit of that with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome to the Sales Slap podcast, Allan Langer. Allan, good morning.
Hey, gentlemen. How are you? I can't believe I'm talking to these 3 icons in one room. So this is fun.
It's great to have you on board. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and where you're calling in from today.
Calling in from beautiful East Greenwich, Rhode Island. I know Simon has been through here. Love the little state of Rhode Island on the East Coast of the United States. And yeah, I've been in sales. I'll say it out loud. I'll be 60 in July. And when Rick was chatting with me the other day, I was like, wow, that's 31 years in sales. And 23 of those years in the in-home world of selling to homeowners, roofing, siding, windows, all that kind of good stuff. So a lot of consumer sales in there. But over the years, I realized it doesn't B2B, B2C, B2 whatever. It doesn't matter. Sales is communication, and that's what it comes down to.
Excellent. Well, we really appreciate having you on the show today for our guests. And for the ones that are tuning in live today, make sure that you comment in the comment box, and we'll be happy to get some of your questions and concerns over to Allan as well as we go through this. So, Scott, you want to kick things off with Allan and share a little bit, because he's got a main focus, and I think you know what that is as well, when he's helping salespeople and sales leaders be the best they can be.
So I've got 2 questions because I get to go first. I get to do this.
Ooh, wow.
So
it's not like a draft, Scott. You don't get 2 at the beginning, 2 at the end.
In my LinkedIn profile, it says that I think I'm really funny. I think we can all agree on that. However, yesterday, when Rick posted about this, one of my famous things is someone will email me and say, hey, Scott, looking forward to chatting later today or whatever. And I'm like, oh, wait, is that today? And I see that Langer pulled that yesterday. I'm like, and I don't know if I admire him more or if I'm disappointed in that level of humor. So we'll talk about that afterwards. So Mr. Langer, first of all, I think it's really cool, because you and I have been connected for a long time. I've seen some of your past podcasts, to see all your posts. It's always really cool to have another sales guru on the show. Knowing that you've got some expertise in pricing, I did an audible on my pricing question this morning. But so I guess it's a 2-part question. Do you think pricing is a bigger concern today than it has been in the past? And if so, what has transpired in the sales world that's causing this to be as big of an issue it is today, or even bigger than it has been in the past?
So answer your first part. No, I don't think pricing is a bigger concern. I think salespeople have always been concerned with pricing. I think it's been one of the biggest hurdles for all salespeople. They're afraid of price. They're not confident about pricing. They don't know how to present the price. I don't think that's changed. I think what's changed now is the information people have going into the sales conversation.
Yes.
I wrote this in my book that prior to the internet, the salesperson was always in charge. The salesperson had all the information. You couldn't really find anything about, you wanted to go buy a roof or a car, whatever. You read a magazine or you saw a billboard or you talked to your Uncle Tony. That's about it. Salesperson was in charge. Now, you better know that when you're going into that conversation, that person has completely vetted you and done their research. And I did a post on this. I just saw a fascinating study that right now, 72% of consumers are almost 80% done with their decision-making process before they even contact a salesperson.
Yeah, I saw that.
So think
post.
about that.
Was yeah,
80% done with their decision-making process. So they don't want to talk to you. And once they do talk to you, make the decision to talk to you based on the information they've gathered, then you better show up with a great experience. And if you don't, you're not going to sell much.
Yeah, and so we won't go down this rabbit hole, but obviously pricing is one of the reasons. But I've seen, there's lots of studies that are suggesting that buyers in B2B or B2C are bringing in salespeople later and later in the process, and there's a lot of reasons for that, and pricing is clearly one of them.
Yeah, I've seen, I've always said the people that are transparent, the companies that are transparent about their pricing, put pricing on their websites. You know, there's some things you can't, but for the most part, when let's say someone is researching windows for their house, they're going to type in Google, how much are new windows for my house? That's literally the first thing they're going to type. They want to know how much. And then what happens is that opens up a Pandora's box of, the price range could be vast, but that's what people want to know. And what we're seeing is consumers now really appreciate knowing up front how much the price is before we start talking to you. Because we don't know how much it is before I want to know if I like you.
It's so interesting because isn't that what challenger selling was all about back when challenger selling was fairly popular? We're so far along with the buyers in the selling process that we have to challenge what they know, whether it be price, information, competition, and bring them back a little bit in that sales process, correct?
Yeah, but we have to be careful because if they don't like you, they're not going to let you bring them back. That's the thing.
Trust, right? And if you don't have that trust to start with, you can't challenge what they think to be true.
Right. And you have to, we all know this. We've all met with salespeople. We all have an expectation. We are expecting, unfortunately, a bad experience. Simon knows this. Most of the time, if you set up an appointment with a salesperson, are you expecting a good experience? You're probably not. So when the salesperson shows up and actually validates the bad experience, they're not buying from you. But if the salesperson shows up and is the antithesis of what they're expecting, now you got something like, oh, I like this guy. I wasn't expecting him to be like this. That's how I train people, because if you show up as the used car salesman, if you show up as the contractor, if you show up as the perception that they have, and you're that, and the perception becomes reality, they're not buying from you. Well, they want to find the person who's not like that.
Somebody who's not those things is Simon. Everybody loves Simon. And I want
everybody loves Simon
for a minute, because Simon, I got to tell you what a trooper he is. Simon's not only in Vancouver on vacation, 9-hour time difference from his home, and he's gotten up early to be with us here today while on vacation. So Simon, we appreciate that very much. You're such a trooper. And I know that you love the work that Allan does, and you probably have a little question for him as well.
I have a couple of questions. Allan and I have known each other for a very long time now, and the most exciting news really is that Allan and I finally get to meet this September when he comes to the UK. I can't wait.
Nice.
Yes, I can't wait. And my girlfriend, she's probably listening right now. She's very excited to meet you, Simon. Probably more than I am. So
we love Simon.
Okay,
could be a TV show. I love Simon.
All good. It's all good. I want to talk about pricing in terms of management and what management are doing. Why is it, Allan, do you think that managers still allow salespeople to discount rather than giving them the opportunity to learn more about holding their price and believe in the value that they're selling?
So I think my answer might infringe on a future question that Rick might ask about sales leadership, but we can always expand, because I got to tell you, after doing this for many years, I think one of the biggest problems with sales right now is sales leadership. I have not seen great sales leadership at all. I've seen leadership stuck in the 80s doing the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Leading with punitive results rather than, boosting your teams up. And as far as that question, I would say the managers would not admit to doing that. They would be like, no, I don't train my guys to drop their price. But then they'll say that on one hand, on the other hand is make sure you have them call me so I can drop the price for you. So it's like, so it's like they're sending mixed messages. I think sales managers, they're so focused on numbers.
Yeah.
That's all they focus on. And obviously they have to have the KPIs, they have to have numbers, but there's so much stuff behind the numbers that I don't think managers look at. And training a salesperson to say, you know what, let me offer value rather than take something off of the price. Let me add to it, to the value, which is what I train, like never drop your price, always add value. It's something like they've never been trained that. So then therefore they're not training their salespeople. And the thing is, who's training the sales leaders? That's the crazy part. Like, you've got these sales leaders who've never been trained. They were a rep at one point. They were good. And then they became a manager. They have no idea how to lead. So all they do is yell at their sales reps when they don't hit their numbers. And they say, oh, well, drop your price to get the job. It's
that's the problem, isn't it?
Can I, because it was going to be my extended question. Sorry, Scott, if I could just jump in for a minute. It is recent Harvard Business Review study showed that 62% of organizations are concerned that their sales leadership is not up to snuff, whereas they're training the salespeople all the time. Who's leading the salespeople, and who's teaching them those important things and supporting them? Like you mentioned, like value stacking. That's a simple one that leaders should be supporting them on going forward. And so I just want to dovetail in, because the discussion's coming with this common thread. As far as leadership goes, which is where my passion lies, specifically sales leaders, what can they be doing to assist their teams and sales professionals during these challenging times where, as you mentioned, buyers seem to have the upper hand with their products and solution knowledge because of the internet and other information that they're gathering? What can leaders, or what should leaders be doing in your mindset for the sales teams, Allan?
So this might be counterintuitive to the numbers driven mindset, but get off the numbers a little bit. If every one of your sales person goes into a call and their only motive and their only drive is to make a sale, they're going to be a mediocre salesperson. They have to lead with helping and service rather than selling. And sales leaders don't train that, because if you train your people to say, listen, I want you to give every single person you speak to an amazing experience. And here's the sentence: whether they buy or not, if you give them an amazing experience, nothing but good will come out of it. And I guarantee you'll sell more. They should be training starting with that, and then the actual conversations of closing and discounts and all that stuff can come. But and you made a great point, Rick. I'll get contacted to come in and do training, 2 days of training, 3 days of training, whatever it is. And I always say, I'll be happy to take your money, but a one-off training thing is not going to work.
Yeah.
Everyone will have a great time. We'll have motivation. Everyone will do rah-rah and everything. But when I leave a week later, they're all going to be doing the same thing. So I suggest two things: either continual training with me, or let me train your salespeople to teach them what I just taught them. And
so it carries on. Yeah.
And it's amazing how many companies don't do the extended stuff. They just want the one-offs. Yeah,
I love that, because as I said, it's people that grow organizations, but great leaders that grow people. Focus on your people first and grow them, and watch the rest fall in place.
Yeah. And now also from a sales standpoint, here's the other thing. And I wrote this in my book. Most sales managers treat customers like prey. Like, we got to get them. We got to close them. It's like I joked in my book that if an alien came down from Mars and went to a hunting lodge meeting on a Wednesday night and a sales meeting on a Thursday morning, the alien wouldn't be able to tell the difference, because they're all talking about how they're hunting their prey. And customers are not prey. You're not there to kill. Like, there's that, I'm a hunter, I'm a killer. Like, no, you're not. You're a salesperson who's trying to help somebody get, solve their problem. You're not trying to kill them and make your wallet fat. Your wallet will get fat on its own if you do a good job helping people.
Yeah, that's a great point. Now, Scott, I rudely interrupted you, sort of, but
no.
Share what you want.
No, it's all. I think we're all really eager to pick Allan's brain on these things, and so I got a bunch of things running through my head right now, and I love how we've transitioned to this notion of, and I'm trying to sort of word a question in here so that I give Allan a chance to answer, but I agree 100%. I guess maybe my question is this: so we talked about talented salespeople being moved into a leadership role, and how being a leader has completely different requirements. And I think the other thing that I'm curious about, and I've seen this all over the place as well, is that organizations will take somebody from another department operations or some other group and put them in charge of sales. So then what happens is that we're leaving the sales team sort of on their own, being either not taught or coached by a competent sales leader, or being because they never learned themselves, or somebody from operations. So I guess maybe, how do we break maybe the question is, how do we break the cycle? How do we get the decision makers in organizations to appreciate that what they've been doing from a pricing perspective and a sales process perspective isn't working? And how do we have them have the aha moment that they need to do something different to better support the sales teams?
How do we make them, the decision makers at the company, realize that they're doing things wrong? Is that the question?
Well, you know what? So that's an interesting perspective, because I think if we tell them, hey guys, you're doing this wrong, we're probably not going to get the buy-in that we want as trainers and sales consultants.
Is this a managing up piece, Scott, that you're looking at?
Well, I don't know if it's a managing up piece as much as it is for organizations that are watching this, and the decision makers who are probably overseeing the sales leaders say, you know what? Yes, we realize that we can do a better job of supporting our sales leaders, who then in turn support the sales people. So then how do we as an industry, how do we as sales experts, so to speak, help organizations have the aha moment that, no, you don't think you're doing it wrong, but you can do it way better and way easier? So how do we kind of break this cycle? And I guess my question is, does it have to start higher up in the organization?
Well, I mean, I think the only thing that's going to make, business owners or company owners realize that they need a change is when their numbers are down. If they're not happy with their sales numbers, then obviously they start looking for a change. And then it's up to folks like us, when we get on the phone to talk about what we're going to do, to not just be this one-off, or here, send your guys to a 5 session online course, or we have to. I have to every single time talk about. First of all, I have to diagnose what their problem is.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then when I find that out, I'm like, okay, I can. Yep. Here's some options for you. I can come in and I can absolutely do a one-off. But if you really want real change, this is what we need to do. And that goes on us by saying, convincing them this is what you need to do. And it starts with, let's train your leaders. Then we'll trickle down to the sales reps, and then you'll have everything from there.
Yeah, I like that. I'm just going to mention that one of our viewers, Craig Smith, a great sales leader in himself, mentions that, you got to figure out what that pain point is first. And they might not even know it as a client themselves. And
which is the diagnosis piece, right?
That's a diagnosis piece.
Well, it's real problem, fake problem as well. I mean, I talk to sales reps all the time. If you're selling a product, every sales rep always thinks, well, my product solves a problem, but that might not be the real problem. I'll tell you I'll give you guys a funny story that I use as an example in training when I talk about real problem, fake problem. So let's say you're a roofing salesman, okay? And you go in and you go, hi, Mr. Smith, I'm Allan from Joe's Roofing. How can I help you? And he says, the roof is leaking in my garage. So a typical salesperson is trained, great, let me show you my shingles. And he brings out his shingle boards. I got 3-tab, I've got architectural, I've got 16 different colors, 3 different manufacturers. We use 3 feet of underlayment, all this stuff. He starts to sell right away, correct?
Yeah.
So then let's do the better salesman, the salesman who's actually going to make the sale. Hi, Mr. Smith. How can I help you? My roof is leaking in my garage. Really? Tell me more about that. Open-ended question. Well, it's been leaking for 3 years. Wow. Another open-ended question. Describe for me how that's been. Well, it's been leaking on my wife's Christmas decorations for 3 years. Real problem. I just found the real problem. The fake problem was the leak. The real problem is his wife's Christmas decorations are getting ruined every year. And in just 2 open-ended questions, and in just 2 open-ended questions, I became the salesperson he wants to do business with, rather than the typical guy who's just pushing his product.
Yeah, that's excellent. Thank you. Now, Simon, you train professional salespeople on a lot of this in this area as well. What do you want to add to this conversation that we've got going?
I think that the point that Alan's making around leaders and around training managers in a role where they can become a manager just because they were good at selling. And often the problems are right at the core of the business within the managers, and they've just inherited these behaviors from other managers they've worked for as well. A lot of the time they're so focused on the numbers, and it's hit your target, go after the numbers, or do all these things. The mindset shift is being able to look at your client and ask them, how does my product help you make money? how does my product help you save money or reduce your risk? The minute you start thinking about how you can help a customer do any of those three things, your sales target will take care of itself.
Yes.
Because you don't become a salesperson, you then become what Alan's talking about, the problem solver, the person who's actually underneath the hood of that person's business, really understanding what's important to them. Your sales target will take care of itself.
Love that.
So delivering on those areas is so, so important.
Yeah.
But if the leaders are just saying, no, you can't discount your product, you can't discount the price, you can't do that. But then on the other hand, they're saying, you know, yeah, but I do it. It's do as I say, not do it. You know, it's wrong. It's completely muddled. So we have to change that complete mindset within the business itself. In fact, we had a system years ago where we had a product that we were selling that had a massive amount of advertisers that were coming in at very, very low prices. We changed the rate card on that particular product so that we couldn't discount. And the funny thing is, the minute you can't discount, people start paying the prices. Because the minute you start
Amazing,
saying,
isn't it?
when they ask the question,
Imagine.
you know, how much discount can I get? And you say to somebody, well, actually, we don't discount our prices, and these are the reasons why.
Yeah.
Suddenly people go, oh, all right then. And
Yeah.
salespeople often forget that you are allowed to say no. You
Yes.
are allowed to do that because your value is just as important
Yeah,
as the person you're talking to.
you're holding your value and your goods high, and they're going to realize that, and that makes all the difference instead of the race to the bottom. Simon, that's a great ad. Thank
Can
you.
I just add? I want to add as well, just one thing. I had a salesperson who worked for me. He worked in the yachting industry, and this was all around super yachts and what have you. So these are people who are very, very wealthy. And we had, you know, rate cards and what have you for costs of advertising. And his approach was very unique because he said, can I sell more expensive? And everyone kind of looked at him and said, well, why would you want to do that? And he said, because I can. Because these people understand that they want value. They expect things to be expensive because they just paid 40-50 million pounds for their boat. They're constantly spending on their crew, keeping it up together. They think things are going to be expensive. So why don't I make it expensive and actually confirm what they believe to be true? And guess
Wow.
what? He
How unique.
always
Raise your
sold.
prices, don't lower them.
Yeah, but it was all about him working to the market, and he was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
I love
I
that.
learned a lot from him, I must say.
That's so great. That's really great.
So
Now,
look at this.
Scott, I just want to share a little bit here. Time's moving on for a minute. Alan, you're well published. You're best-selling author. You can mention your first book as well, but tell us a bit about this one because we always have a recommended book, and in this case, it's yours. Tell us about this accomplishment planner.
Well, this accomplishment planner was born. I think everyone, at least, you know, competent people at least, are to-do list writers. Everyone has a to-do list and things like that. They buy planners. And I spent years being frustrated about every planner I bought from Amazon just was not for me. I can't tell you hundreds and hundreds of dollars I spent on these damn planners that I used for a month or two and didn't work. The planner usually made my life more complicated than helped it. So I sat down one day and I said, what do I need? And I figured out that I need, and I'll show you, I have a copy right behind me.
How convenient.
Yeah, that I needed. Here's the problem with to-do lists. Let me start with that. A to-do list makes everybody feel like crap because basically here's what happens. You'll sit down on a Sunday night or a Monday morning and you write down the things you have to do that week. So let's say you have 20 things to do that week. So Monday, you get 8 things done. That's a pretty damn good Monday, right? But instead of looking at the 8 things you got done, you look at the 12 things you didn't get done and you feel like crap about yourself. And you get mad because, oh my God, I still got 12 things to do. And to-do lists makes people make people feel crappy, feel shitty because they didn't get anything done. So I decided to like, let me look at my to-do list, but let me break it up. So this is what it looks like. So I have my annual goals, my quarterly goals, my monthly goals, and then what I have to do each week. And I rewrite this every single Sunday night. And what happens is the to-do list at the bottom, the weekly goals funnel into the monthly, funnel into the quarterly, and funnel into the annually. And then you put them on your calendar as a task. So if you have to send out a proposal, most people put that down as a task. and it sits there until they get to it. But if you put that task at 10 o'clock on Tuesday morning and give yourself an hour and it's treated like an appointment, you actually get it done. And no one else will bother you or set an appointment on that calendar because that's what you're doing. And now if you got 20 things to do, you get 4 done on Monday, 4 done on Tuesday, 4 done on Wednesday, and you start feeling a lot better about yourself. And obviously things pop up during the week, but it organizes your week, and when you rewrite your goals every single week, including your annual goals, you get them done. It's just a simple fact. So I started doing this. The long answer to your question, Rick. I created a single sheet, and I went to Staples and I copied 52 copies of this sheet, and I bound them, and that was my book for 3 or 4 years. And everyone at the coffee shop I do work in every day were like, "What is that? What is that? What is that?" So I was giving this out for free.
Yeah.
And I was like making copies for people and sending it as a PDF. And then finally one day someone said to me, "You should make that a book." So I did. And there it is.
It's awesome. And it's, it's like you say, accomplishment planner, because when you plan, you're going to be successful. Where can people get a copy of the book, Allan?
Just on Amazon, just type my name in, Allan Langer Books, and you'll see this one. And you'll see my first book, which is The 7 Secrets to Selling More by Selling Less.
Yeah, incredible. You're very knowledgeable in that area. Scott, you wanted to jump in with something.
I've changed my question now.
Ah, wow.
Good.
So what's interesting about this is I think we can all agree that salespeople's time is super valuable. And I guess maybe my question to you is that when you find, Allan, that salespeople are using a system to manage their time, ideally your planner, what have you seen the real world outcomes to be? And I love it that it's an accomplishment planner, right? So it's not a task or a to-do, it's an accomplishment, which goes to your idea of getting things done and feeling good about yourself. I'm guessing that, given the importance of time, what have you seen from the folks that you've worked with? How have they benefited from using this planner or just whatever the system they're using to better manage their time?
Well, this is going to go back to mindset in sales, because it's another area that I focus a lot on, because I've seen studies. I love that all 4 of us are study kind of geeks. And one of the studies I looked at, the worst mindsets in professions in the country. And in the top 3, salespeople have some of the worst mindsets. Customer service is number 1, but salespeople have really bad mindsets. And that may come from leadership. It may come from, oh, I hate my customers, everybody sucks. But we all know some of the negative mindsets in sales. So the mindset is, if you're a salesperson, I don't care who you work for, your mindset should be you're running this like your own business.
Yep.
Once you do that, instead of sit back and let the company, company's going to give you leads, or just wait for things for the company to do for you, you get your ass out there and you do your own stuff. Even if you have CSR setting your own appointments, you treat this like your own business. The success will be instantaneous, because now, number 1, you'll sell more because you have that attitude, because it's your business, but you'll actually feel you'll have to have a better time management system to do that. And if you have something like this or whatever works for you, but as soon as you start managing your time better, like it's your own business, you'll be a better salesperson.
Okay, I want a couple of quick comments. So I think Allan right now is the first guest who has said shit and ass in the same podcast. So you're leading in the foul language thing, which is great, because that means that we can be free to do it too.
That's usually Scott's category.
Or Simon to come on.
Don't drag me into this.
The other thing, and I think this could be, I know this is, we're featuring the experiences of Allan Langer, but one of the things that, and I love how you frame this, Allan, because I know that when I coach people, especially those that have maybe a more negative attitude, sometimes the homework is at the end of every day or the end of every week, sit back for a few minutes and write down the things that you felt good about the week. What are some accomplishments? What are some things that you're proud of? And it's amazing how, as you talked about mindset, when people do this consistently, it does shift their mindset. So I love how you're focusing on accomplishments and mindset. And maybe some of the tips and tricks is a daily or a weekly acknowledgement of the things that you did that you're proud of, that you're happy of. The planner will be a part of that. And it's amazing how that shifts people's mindset to start focusing on the good stuff and not the bad stuff.
Yeah, that's a great point. Right. Simon, I want to ask Simon here, who's our great West Coast man for the day. What are you getting out of this? What's one of your favorite things you want to reiterate or emphasize that you're hearing here?
I think the biggest thing ultimately is this mindset around treating it like it's your own business. And you know what, as salespeople, it's really easy to play with other people's money, isn't it? It really is. You know, we discount just because we can, doesn't mean we should. It's not your money. You should be able to understand the value of it. But if you start to run your sales business as if it's your own business, you may find that you start to discount less because you suddenly realize the value of what you're selling if you think about it as if it is your own. And as a business owner myself, you know, it's something that we're very proud of, is the fact that we don't discount, because we know the value of what we do and we know how it impacts customers in terms of service, value in terms of selling the service that we offer, the training we deliver, the results it delivers. So I think that whole message of, you know, treat it like it's your own business is probably one of the most valuable things that salespeople can learn. And I suppose in another way, try and run a business at some point. Do it for yourself at some point. Get involved in doing that. You'll soon realize the ups and downs and the highs and lows that you've got
Side
going on.
hustle
How many
of your
calls
own
have we had on
business.
that, Alan?
We'll teach you so very much. You're so right, Simon. Listen, and we want to respect everybody's time from the Sales Slap podcast that we're doing here today. And we know how valuable everybody's time is out there. So we're going to wrap things up a little bit. Alan, people are going to be interested and want to reach out to you. What's the best way to connect with you?
So just go to my website. It's the7secretssalesacademy.com and the number 7. So the7secretssalesacademy.com. You can say hello there. It says fill out a form. I even have a live chat thing that if someone says hello, it comes on my phone and I can chat with you or just reach out. But yeah, it's I'm high tech right now. So good stuff.
Way to stay up with that, Alan. We appreciate it. Now, you didn't make this great picture, but I do want to remind everybody as well that you're watching this podcast and we appreciate it. And if you're looking as well for other ones, you can find them on all the major platforms from iTunes to Spotify, as well as on, I know, a lot of our websites too. So we want to be sure that we thank our guest, Alan. Thanks for being on today.
Thanks for having me, guys. I wish we had more time. This was fun.
Fast.
We could talk for a couple hours, I think.
Well, maybe we'll have you back on as well. Thank goodness we've got a bit of a lineup now of people that are coming on with great knowledge like yourself, and we really, really appreciate you sharing here today.
Pleasure to be here.
Great. Simon?
Who's our next guest, Rick?
Oh, you put me on the spot badly. Scott, help me out.
Our next guest is Bernadette McClelland.
Oh.
Followed by Tom Boston.
Nice.
So you know what? So Alan is just continuing the streak. Like, honestly, I can't get over how fortunate we are to have great guests like Alan. And like, this is still kind of surreal to me that here we are talking, you know, all things sales with people like Allan Langer. I'll add one thing. Alan's also a great follow on LinkedIn. So for those of you that are on LinkedIn and aren't following Alan, first thing you do when you get off of this is follow him, because he's got some great insights.
Thanks everyone for being on today. As always, we appreciate you, the viewers, tuning in, and be sure to reach out with us with comments so we can keep making this show the best it can be on the Sales Slap. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks, attending everybody. The Sales Slap podcast. Feel free to reach out to your hosts, Rick, Simon, and Scott, and our guests from this episode for more information. We look forward to seeing you next time.